Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of On dotnet Live, where we're going to have 60 minutes of unscripted dotnet entertainment. Our mission is to empower the dotnet community to achieve more. I'm your host, Maira Wenzel, with my co-hosts, Scott Addie and Cam Soper. And I'd like to welcome today's guest, Swamy. How about you introduce yourself and tell us what you're going to be covering today?
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining. Today's topic is deep dive on Azure Web Apps. So what we will do is we'll start with creating a web app, and then we will do a little bit of deep dive. What is this web app? How it is identifying? What is that content we are showing? And how can we modify it? And then we'll go ahead and use this AZ web app up to create a static web app, and then do a little bit of deep dive on that piece. And then the next item, what we do is we will deploy a .NET 6 Web API, which speaks to SQL Server and Redis cache. So that's what we will be showing the cache aside pattern. Why should we use cache aside pattern? But the key pieces are like once we deploy, we will not be able to connect. So we'll do a little bit of investigation. So whatever I'm doing, it will not work. So we will do investigation. We will do deep dive. Where can we find which is equivalent to the event we are on our local box, and then we'll have the connectivity. Then we'll see the advantage of advantage of using the configuration, and then we'll deploy a .NET 7 minimal API. So here we are deploying full-blown web API. Here we are deploying minimal API, and we'll see all-in-one architecture versus the layered architecture. Okay, and then we'll deploy a Angular 5 application. Angular 15 application. It's not Angular 5. I'm sorry for that. So this is the Angular 15 application. And then the final part is how do you marry two containers and deploy the containerized microservice, because it's a web API married to a MongoDB container. So how do we deploy that to the Cosmos DB? Guys, could you please flash my screen? Okay, it's already being flashed.
Yeah, I have your screen up right now.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Right,
I think
thank you so
before
much.
we get started, Swamy, I'll ask if we could bump up the font size just a little bit.
Oh yeah, sure.
Much better. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, so as you notice, it's going to be
You're
a
welcome,
deep dive into
Scott.
Azure Web Apps, .NET 7, and Angular. And so I think we are going to have a lot to cover, but we're going to go step by step, right, Swamy?
Yes. So we'll go very slowly. We'll see. This is part one. I have a lot of things to cover. I just can't cover here. So I'll definitely come back given another chance to do a part two of this deep dive we need to do. So let's start. Please fasten your seatbelt. Let's dive. So first thing is, let's go ahead and create this is a resource group. I will create a web application, and we will create this only for this sample. Rest of the samples I already created because I want to save at least a couple of minutes in each of the demo, so that way we can focus more. So the first thing is we are having this web app. So we can have our own virtual machine where we can configure the type of software we want to install and the type of application we want to install. And responsibility lies on our shoulders to patch it and ensure that the port mappings and everything are tightened. Here it's a platform as a service where we can create the web apps. The application supporting platforms are different. Let's go deep and see that. what all the things which it supports and what considerations we should use. So here we'll give the name. So app first app dev 001. There is a nice documentation from Microsoft on the naming convention. Please use that. So when we come to this code, we can go ahead with container. That's a fifth demo. So at this point of time, let's stick to this runtimes. If you see, we have .NET runtime 7 and 6, standard support and the long-term support, and full framework are there. And we have the Go, experimental, as well as we have Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby. More might come. Okay. And when you're selecting any of these frameworks, the runtime, then the cross-platform one, if you see, let's take the example of this .NET. So the cross-platform one, whether it is .NET 6 or .NET 7, it will give us an option. We can go ahead with the Windows or Linux operating system. But there are some of the platforms where we select, it doesn't give us an option. It's not a cross-platform. .NET framework is only for Windows. At the same time, if you see Go language, that guy supports only on Linux. So similarly, if you see Java is allowing us to use both Windows as well as the Linux frameworks. Okay. So similarly, we have Python. Python is on Linux. And go ahead with Ruby. Ruby is purely with Linux. So when you select any of those things, please ensure that you will be blocked with one particular kind of operating system based on the selection. Okay. So the region, I'm taking it at East US. Suppose if you are speaking with your data store, maybe the cache or the SQL database or any data store you're speaking, please ensure that the web app is very closer to the data store, because we don't want the round trip from web app to SQL creates few milliseconds. Okay. The next important point is the app service plan. So in this app service plan, what is that this app service plan? Let's see for a moment. Okay. Just I want to create a demo plan, and let's go ahead, and we will not use that, but we will explore the planning. So before choosing any of these app service plan, we need to understand what is this app service plan and what is our workload and facilities. So you can have two views. One is the hardware view versus one is the feature view. So when we are saying hardware view, it's not that we are going to get this much equivalent box of our own. It is guaranteed that this much of compute will be allocated for us. It's not that we will be allocated the A series or S series or P series of virtual machine. No, it is the compute. It's a guaranteed compute that this is the compute which we are going to get. So when we see from the hardware perspective, there are free, shared, and basic. But when we switch back to Linux, the shared one will not be there. You will have free as well as basic. So what is that you can do? You will know that how much of Azure compute units. See this, the Azure compute units or vCPU is an approximation of SKU's relative performance. Okay, the performance is guaranteed. So what is the memory you are going to get and what is the cost per hour? Now the next thing is feature. So if you go ahead with the normal one, you can do a scale, but with free and shared you can't. But with basic you can do manually. But from standard onwards, you can write a rules and elastic. These kind of things are there. How many staging slots and how many times the backup, everything is there. Now, one question someone can ask is, what should I choose? So before jumping and choosing some hardware, you need to have the baseline with a given small hardware. Okay, with a small hardware, whatever the code you have written, you need to ask the business folks, what is the concurrent number of users? So we will divide that into extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. So if they say that 1,000 concurrent users per second, that will be the large workload. So we'll start with 250 users per second, then 500 users, 750 users, 1000 users. That's what the business want. So we need to understand with the small hardware, what is that which is supporting 1000 concurrent users per second. And we need to do one extra load, 25% on top of this, just to ensure that if at all there is a spike, we are not breaking. This is with one particular hardware. Now, on top of the baselining, we can have the horizontal scaling. Always go ahead with the horizontal scaling. So take a smallest one, and then on top of that, do the baselining, and then write down the scale out feature. Okay, that is the one which you need to choose. Not that based on the price, you need to do a proper performance testing, a baselining before deciding your hardware capability. I will go ahead with the existing one. And for the deployment, we will not speak in this. We'll come back to the another deep dive, part 2 of this. And application insights, as of now, I'll say no, because we will use application insights in rest of the demos. This demo is to understand what is this which is hosting this application, and we will understand few other basics. But all this we will do deep dive. What is happening behind the scenes, under the hoods?
Swamy,
we will see all this.
one thing I'd like to call out for our viewers here, you might be watching this and wondering to yourself, if I were to try this at home, what would this cost me? Thankfully, there is a way to find the projected cost of a solution you would deploy to Azure. There's a pricing calculator you can use. So in this case, you could plug in the details here of what Swamy is provisioning in Azure. And before you provision anything, you get, again, a realistic projection of what that would cost you to run.
And that it was also showing a free tier, right? So if you just want to test it out and just like play with it, I imagine you could also use the free tier.
Yes, I start with free tier and then go to the basic and shade like that. I'll do that. Okay.
Yeah, and just to give an idea, of service plans, like I run the dotnet website, right? So it's hosted on Azure, and we do have a plan that is like a premium 2 v2. So it's like we're not we get like millions of page views per month, and we're not at the highest tier yet. So like I think we were running on standard for a long time, but it was like that's not recommended for production, and like it was like having memory issues, and so it's like it was too low, and so we increased that, and so over the years, and so now we're in like premium 2 v2, but it's like the demands on the website, like we keep growing the visits and page views and adding more features, so you can manage your traffic like that and your service plan, and it's easy to change as well.
Okay, so here we see this is the overview where we can see that what is the region and see the name and the publishing model as well as the runtime stack. And I just clicked on it. It showed this one. And when I come and click on this icon and click on this connection and go to this valid certificate, so this is a wildcard certificate. So it supports SSL, but this is the wildcard certificate. So we need to have our own SSL and our own domain name. But as of now, asterisk.azurewebsites.net. So that means this is a wildcard certificate which supports everything. So another important point is, if we come to this plan, whatever the plan you choose, that will have some capacity, as we discussed, some computing power has been guaranteed for us. So this is the one which we chosen as a B1, the basic plan. Here we have the price as well as what is this price. So one thing we can do is, if you want, we can do a vertical scaling or scale up. So increase the computing power. So from B1 we can jump to standard or whatever the tier which we need it. But before that, we need to have a proper analysis of what is the concurrent number of users, what is it supporting, we need to have a baseline, then only we need to jump. Okay. And the best thing, what I personally feel, it might not be the best practice, but I personally feel work on a small workload, test it properly, and then do a scale out. So as we have taken a smaller plan, we don't have the scaling, but as we have taken there, we have seen that we can do a manual scaling, and that too up to 3 instances. 3 instances we can scale. And another important point is the same app service plan can be used to support multiple apps. So this might be a problem. Assume that these are 4 departments and I've written a crappy code and my application is chewing up all the resources, and it might bring down or impact negatively the applications of other departments. So we need to be extra careful when we are choosing multiple applications to share the same app service plan. And app service plan, whatever you select based on the operating system, we need to ensure that only those kind of applications will be deployed. So after discussing all these things, what is this first page? Who is displaying? Who has created? How does this application knows that it needs to show this? So first thing what we will do is we will come here to console. We'll come here to console, and then we'll go back to configuration. When you come to this console, and first thing is I'll type host name. When I type host name, it is displaying a workstation. So DW something workstation 00 VW. That means there is some workstation or virtual machine or Docker Docker container, something is there which is hosting our application. We do the same thing like C sites, and within that we'll have multiple sites. So this is a dub root. When I do a DAR, there is something known as hosting start HTML. I can do a cat on this hosting start.html. When I do a cat, I'm seeing some content. I assume that content is this one. So this is one way. Now, how does someone knows that? Go and pick this hosting start.html. So now what we have to do, we have to come back to this configuration. So in this application configuration, we will have a default document that we used to choose in IIS setting. So if you come and see all the default document which will pick up, like default HTML, HTML, default ASP, and all these things, and hosting start is here. So now we unearth 2 things. We unearth that when we create a web app, hosting start.html is provided by default by Azure. And the second thing is under the configuration, under the default documentation, under the default documents, it is already mentioned that it has to pick up. So it didn't find any of these documents, then it picked up this one. Now we can come here under the deployment tools. We can come to the app service editor. I can open this app service editor, and this is just for the knowledge or under the hoods what is happening. Please don't do this in your production box. We'll come and we'll modify. Without hello world, any demo is not complete. So we'll start with hello world, and then we will do further all big applications, no hello worlds. Just this is the first hello world and last hello world. So I come to this hosting start, I'll delete everything, and I'll say hello world, H1. I save this. Now come back and do this. It's here. Now I can write any HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, everything in this one particular file. So this was the first demo where we saw that what is web app? It's a platform as a service. A web app will have the app service plan, and we need to select the operating system as well as the platform what we want to deploy. And lot of considerations, we need to do a baseline before choosing, and the suggested method is we need to do a horizontal scaling, adding more instances based on the metrics. Okay, that's our first demo. Now let's go to the second demo. Now the second demo is a command called web app up. Okay, so let me come in here and come back to this command and do AZ account show table. So that shows my Microsoft Azure sponsorship account. And here, what is that we are doing is, let me come to this page. This is the static website. Inside that, I have scripts, simple JavaScript, not a big one, and a CSS, favicon, and index HTML. I have live server, so I'm saying open with live server. When I select this open with live server, so it opens up this a static web page. So just I'm using the same template since 2020, since 3 years. So the title goes, it's just some static template with CSS and a simple JavaScript. So this is what we want to deploy. So we don't have any of those apps here with this name. So one important point I would like to discuss here is, here I've given a link of this documentation, Microsoft. So this clearly says that what is this AZ Web App Up. Okay, Web App Up. Okay. So this documentation, you can see this, we can create the web app and deploy the code. So all different things we can do. And if at all the resource group or anything is missing, it will go ahead and it will create. So let's see another tip. So once you first deploy, it will create .azure folder. So we can take advantage of this one, and we can give the app service plan, the web app, what should be the website name, and the resource group. So our command can be much shorter. So another way to do is, you can create the app service plan and you can execute this AZ web app and give your app service plan name and write --HTML if it is the static site, or if you're deploying the .NET 6 or .NET 7 or Python or Java or whatever the runtime it is, please give that runtime. Now, how do you know that what all the runtimes it support? So you can come and execute this command, AZ web app list -runtimes. So this command, very beautifully, it will give you the list. See this under Windows, .NET 7, 6, and what all the runtime it supports, it is giving. And you have another array. It is on Linux. It says that .NET 7 and 6 supported, and Node, Python, PHP, Java, this JBoss, Tomcat, and Go language. So nicely it has given. I am seeing Ruby also. So whatever we have seen in the UI, you're seeing the same thing. So it's not only for the static apps. If at all it is a static app, you need to specify --HTML. If you're deploying something else, you can use .NET 6. Okay, so that's how we can do. So let me select this very small command. I already have the resource group. This is resource group on .NET Dev 001. So that's already there. So I will go ahead and see this here. I'm saying that AZ web app up location is East US. I'm just giving the resource name. Now when I do --HTML, because this is a static website. Now see this, it picked up the web app name from this config file. I mean, it will create from the config file. It picked up the app service plan name, and also it picked up the web app name. You can override. It's not that definitely you need to have this. You can override, and then it will come and update this config file. So please take advantage of this config file to specify what should be this. And also I'm specifying the SKU, the free tier. So it will take 1 or 2 minutes, but it will come and deploy. I will show you once it comes, and let's go to the third demo. That is very, very important, and we are covering a lot of things there.
One thing I'll call out here real quick for our viewers, if you're looking at these AZ prefix commands and wondering what is this, this is the Azure CLI, which you would need to install on your machine. Alternatively, you could use the Azure CLI through the Azure portal in the Cloud Shell feature. It's pre-installed. The other thing you might wonder is, why is this necessary? Let's say you're using Visual Studio instead of VS Code. You could similarly deploy your application to Azure App Service through right-click Publish in the Solution Explorer window. That's probably the easiest way to get up and running in Visual Studio.
And
True.
we have a question as well from one of our viewers. So Arnaldo is asking, like, what is the difference in terms of the app that gets created based on the template indicated in the command?
Let me see the question. Can you?
Yes,
Can I see?
I'll put it again. It's in the screen. So you mentioned that a static site with --HTML, and so it's like, but is there a difference of how the
Difference in terms of the app that gets created based on the template indicated in the command? No. So let's see that. So when you come here, all we are telling is this has been created. So I'm sorry. So if you come and refresh this, this is the static website, and the plan also, you can see this is the plan. So when we come in here, we can specify all these parameters from there, because you can create your own app service plan. Whatever the operating system, all the parameters you give it, create the app service plan, and then you specify that you want to create an app that is the web app, and give the app service plan. So that way you can control what is that you want to create. And also, this is the app service plan which we created. It created the Windows app service plan. But as I was mentioning, you can create that command prior to executing this and specify all the parameters, whether you want Windows operating system or X operating system, and what is the SKU. You have full control on that one. But this is one other way where you specify some parameters, and some of the parameters, if the resource group is not there, it will automatically create it. So there are some other advantage. You're executing through the CLI instead of using any of those visual tools, and some of the things which when it doesn't find, it go ahead and creates it. You can see this. It created this plan, it hooked up to this plan, and publishing model is this. And as we have specified --HTML, that means it's a static website. Or it's not, I don't want to confuse with the Azure static website. This is a static application. So that's the reason we are not seeing any of those runtimes. But if we would have specified the runtime as .NET 6, it would have published using this Azure Web App, and then it would have given the runtime information also here, as we have seen in other web applications when we created. If I come in here, the school web API, if I come to this school web API, it's got the app service plan, and it has got the runtime model also. We have selected, runtime model, what I have selected was .NET 7. So the only way is this I've created with the Azure portal, or you can create it with ARM templates, Terraform, Biceps, or you, as Scott was mentioning, we can come in here and rightmost click on this and click on publish, and then if at all you have the profile, it will hook this up. You can select how the publishing should happen. Do you want to push it to the Azure or virtual machine or containers? You can do it from here. Or another mode is, what you can do is you can come back to the Visual Studio folder where you have this, rightmost click and deploy to web app. There are multiple ways. All are manual. So the automatic one, we'll do it in the part 2 of this deep dives, but there are multiple ways. We'll go step by step. Did I answer the query? Shall I go ahead to the next step?
I think so, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. So we deployed the static static app, and we will, let's see. I mean, we spent this much of time. Let's spend 1 minute time to see how the static app comes. And let me click on this link, and then we'll go to the third demo. So there you go. We have it. And again, you can do the same kind of deep dives in this one, because here, if you come and see the app service editor, just a quick look at the app service editor, because in the previous deployment, we saw that the hosting start was there. Here also, the hosting start will be there when we first create the web app. By default, it creates the hosting start and it displays. But when we do a deployment, so it kills that hosting start, but it has got the index.html. So understand that even though the hosting start is not there, the index start is there here. So it is part of the default documentation, default set of documents in the configuration. So that's how it is going to pick up this. Okay, so let me close all these windows. Let's jump into our very, very important demo. This is the demo where we are covering tons and tons of information. So we will cover the cache aside pattern, we'll cover Azure Key Vault, we'll cover Azure SQL Server, Azure Redis Cache, application insights, and the first thing we will deploy, and it will not work. I'm very happy on that. So because we will learn only when we do mistakes, and we'll learn from our mistakes. So let's do the mistakes happily and learn. So I'm publishing this. This is another mode. I mean, whatever the methods I'm showing the hardest methods. As Scott was mentioning, all we can do is right mouse click publish, but I want to do it in the hardest method possible. Okay. So first we will publish it. I mean, this is what it happens behind the scene. So we will, whatever we are doing is what is happening under the hoods. When you do a publish, what is that it's doing? It will compile the code. It will create a zip file and do a zip deploy. So under the hoods, this is what is happening. So what we are doing is we are breaking that into pieces, and we are manually doing. But when you look at the logs, when you're doing the deployment, you will see that that's what is happening. So here, and right now we are here. So if you come and see this folder, the target folder, let me come to this target folder. You have this publish folder where we have all the binaries. So before deploying anything, let's come back to this one, bookstore. Let me open that in a, okay, I already opened it. So I already opened it. So let me come back to this one and go and select the app service editor. Let's see that for 1 minute while it is deploying. We will need this. So at this point of time, you can see the hosting start HTML will be there. We'll see that, and then we will jump back to VS Code and we'll do the deployment from there. So
we have a pretty good question here in the chat. I'll put
yes.
it up on the screen for folks to see. And the question here is asking, do we need a CI/CD pipeline to update our site up in Azure App Service, or will this right-click publish mechanism automatically know what to do and create it for you?
See, Junaid, all the time we will have the CI/CD, because if you see that all the projects which I'm showing that has got the CI/CD, but I'm not discussing because I want to focus on how we will do it manually, so that we will know internals under the hood what is happening. Like if you see here, we have CI/CD pipeline. In other places also, if you come and see that, you have CI/CD pipeline, you have Kubernetes, and you have a lot of scripts. How can you containerize? How can you deploy it to Azure Container Instance? How can you deploy it to Azure Container Registry? A lot of tons and tons of things are there. But only thing is, I'm taking step by step.
But you had to create those
but
pipelines, right?
Everything. Like if you see that. Yes, but that also Azure has taken into its hand. We don't need to do anything. All you need to create a button, and it creates a pipeline. That's what I want to show it in two ways to do it. How can we do it manually, and how can the Azure does it automatically. Anyway, Junaid has asked this question, so I'll take 1 quick minute to show you, Junaid. When I come into the deployment center here, if I come into the deployment center, I've given the credentials of the GitHub. I hooked up this GitHub and Azure has created a beautiful workflow pipeline, and it has given me. I didn't do anything. Everything it took in its hand and it created. See this, all I hooked up this, and if I go into this project repo, you see this workflow file, and I didn't create this. Azure itself has created. All I need to do is select this repo. Where is this repo? And then Azure takes care of that. So that's, I'm parking it for the part 2. Everything, Junaid, we need to do it through CI/CD pipeline. What I'm doing in this part 1 of the deep dive is I'm doing a lot of things manually and the toughest way possible. Okay, so that we will know that what is happening under the hoods. We will see that. Okay, I assume I have answered this query. So right now we have only hosting start HTML. So now I'm coming back to this entire source code. And this has also got this GitHub because I don't want to dilute a lot of things. There is a VNet integration, a lot of things I want to cover, but let's take baby steps. I'm not doing anything from Visual Studio 2022, which I'll come back little later. So now we have the publish folder. We can come back to this publish folder. Just now we published it. Right mouse click on that and click on web app. And the moment we click on the web app, and you will get it takes few seconds, but it will display a dialog asking to choose the application where we want to deploy. So nowadays the tooling has become such a powerful. You don't need to leave this Visual Studio Code. Okay, seriously, you can connect to AWS, and you can connect to GitHub, you can connect to Mongo, you can connect to SQL Server, you can connect to MySQL, you can connect to Docker container, you can connect to Kubernetes. You don't need to go out of this Visual Studio Code. God, you guys are making me lazy. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting here and I'm doing everything. Okay, so let's deploy, jokes apart. Let's deploy the bookstore app. So I've selected the bookstore app, and it asks the confirmation. Are you sure you want to deploy? Yes. Thank God it's not asking the second question. Are you really sure? Oh, what is that? It says that. Okay, so let's see the output window. So now this is what I want to show you. When it starts this deployment, see that it takes the folder, okay, publish folder, and it creates the zip package, and then do a zip deploy. At this point of time, we are having this. Let it start this, and before that, if we are lucky, we will be able to see this. The fraction of second it says that the site under deployment. I don't know whether we are lucky or not. Let's see that. Let me click on that. Okay, thank God it's still showing. There is a deployment which has already started. Okay, zip package size is 5.71 MB. And this guy is spinning. And if you are lucky, we'll really see that dialog. For a fraction of a second, it shows that, because the hosting start will be gone, and it will have another file I don't remember on top of my mind, which says that site under construction. Let's see. Yes, this is what. See this. We missed that page, but it definitely shows that page, site under construction. So within a fraction of a second, things are going. We are partially lucky, I would say. At least we saw that site under construction. So now when we come back and see that, it kills that hosting start HTML, and you have a dapper and all these things, whatever is there from the publishing file. Okay, that's like a 50% of the world piece. As I was mentioning, now we will start the investigation. Okay, so we need to put the Sherlock Holmes hat and start investigating API controller. So let's start doing this API/books. Come on, give me something. Throw some error on my face. That's what I'm looking at. So let's come back to this live metrics application insights. I'll speak about this one. There are a lot of things. Now we need to connect quite a few items here. We need to looking at is the configuration. Okay, so it's taking a lot of time, and let me check. I mean, it will fail, but it shouldn't take that much time to fail. So let's use another browser and see that whether it is failing or not. Fail. Okay. So we made the request and it's taking time. Let it take, not a problem. Let's start investigation. Okay, 500. That's what we are expecting. And we saw that. So we should say thank you for throwing this 500 exception. Now we have no clue why it is throwing 500 exception, where it is failing. So what we will do is there are multiple ways. We can come back to the log stream. This is one of the way. So we can come back to the log stream and let me go to this browser where here, let me again click on this and it is spinning. So it should throw another 500 exception. We can see the, I did switch off this web server logs. Okay, just give me a minute. Application logging, web server logging. Also, I will put it to this one, to the file system, and I will close that. And this I will change it to starting from information. Anything happening from information, but don't do that. Only keep it to errors. But just as I'm showing this demo, I just want to show the logging whatever I'm doing by default, and I think I've enabled the Serilog also. Let me see that. So in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and hit this guy a couple of times, and also parallelly come and updates are not being posted. This is also very, very important point. See this, when we tested this application map gives you a very good picture, like what is the component and to which all the components it is speaking. I really love this tool. Okay, I want to see the live metrics. That's the reason I'm hitting a couple of other calls so that it will start spitting the live metrics. Seriously, this is also one of the good tool I really love to use. Now see this, we came here, and I think it is it should show that. I don't know why it's not spitting, but yeah, it started spitting. So we are seeing the application logs or the web server logs. It will also give this, but at this point of time, for some reason, we are not able to see. Let's park. We'll come back to this one. So the other tool, what I personally use is this advanced tool, the Kudu console. This is keys of the kingdom, guys. Again, I'm telling, this is keys of the kingdom. Now, when you come to this app settings, okay, so when you come to this app settings here, it should show all this app settings which we have it. So let's go to this command, debug console. So this is my favorite tool. This is equivalent to the event viewer. Whatever I'm showing right now is equivalent to the event viewer in our local box, that is event log. So let's click on this one and slowly scroll down. And there you go. We have got the first break. So it says that the SQL server was not accessible. So if you look deeper into that, it will give you the clue also what was the SQL server name. So let's quickly come back here and click on app settings JSON. So it is trying to go ahead and hit the local DB, because application settings, no one will drop the SQL server of production or test. It will be only dev. So it will not, it's local box. So it's not able to hit it. So what is that which can save us right now? So we got the clue from the Kudu console. We should technically get it from the log stream also, but for some reason I'm not lucky today to Azure portal is not supporting me today for some reason, I don't know. But anyways, let's go move forward. We'll come back to the configuration. So another important point what we have to understand here is when you go to this app settings and you have the structure like a parent child structure, like a data store colon Redis connection string. This is how we'll use it. So another important documentation what you need to understand is app web app underscore in Azure. Okay, so it clearly says that if you see that whenever you have an environment, you need to replace this colon with double underscore. Okay. So the colon with double underscore, that will be there in the documentation at this point of time. We are not getting, but that's how it should be. So let's come back to this, and I already created it. This is the first version. So I removed it. So this will connect to the Redis cache and the SQL Server 1. This will connect to the SQL Server. So now we have this, we have the connection string. We are not hard coding anything in the app settings, but we are using the configuration of this. So this is one layer secured. Okay.
There's a little bit of clarification I'd like to make here for folks that are wondering about the double underscore. So in the Azure portal, it requires you to use that double underscore as the delimiter in your app settings and the keys. However, the configuration system that is used in the underlying .NET application will look for the colon as a delimiter. The replacement of the double score with the colon will be handled for you by the configuration provider that you're using.
That's correct. So here, if you see that I'm using the strongly typed configuration. So I don't need to go ahead and use this colon and all these things. I'm using the strongly typed configuration. So whatever this block of app settings, which is this one, data store setting, Redis cache and SQL, that will come and hook up to this data store settings, which is a strongly typed. So I use this parameters. I don't need to go ahead and play with magic strings. Okay, now that we are here, it will not work. I'll guarantee you. Okay, I want to walk you through the hardest path. How do you do investigation? So let's do the second phase. The next attempt it will work, but this attempt also it will not work.
But you haven't republished yet, right?
No, I didn't republish. I
published
only once.
You changed the environment variables.
I changed the configuration. So as I was mentioning, this will not also work. And again, we need to come and look into the Kudu console, our very brother who is going to help us. I will remove all the content and again come back to this one. I think it's pretty empty. Let's go ahead and hit this again another time. I'm not redeploying because a lot of times it doesn't work. It works in one environment. It doesn't work in another environment. It's just a configuration issue. Someone would have forgot to write this configuration. So this I'm reproducing in the real-time scenario, what we will encounter in our day-to-day. So let me hit this couple of times and come back to this diagnostic settings. Let me go back and do a refresh of this. and come back to this logs, and this is our event viewer guy. And now you see this, it says that I'm trying to speak to this database. It is here. I'm trying to speak to this database, but it says that the login, the requested login from this is not allowed. So let's take that and come back to the SQL Server and add a firewall rule. And I'm adding a firewall rule here, and I'm saying that this is web apps. Okay. Now I click on this one, I click on save. Let's take a minute, and then we'll click on this. Okay. Ooh, world peace. We are able to see the content. Okay. Now, the next question someone should ask me is, hey, what is this IP? Where are you getting it from? That's a very good question. No one was asking, so I asked myself. Now let's come back to the properties. Where is that? Okay, here. When you come to the properties, every web app, this is the virtual IP and this is the URL. Every web app will have set of outbound and set of inbounds. So if you see whatever the IP address we have added this, whatever the IP address we have added here, 2085.14, 2085.140. So let's see that 2018.140, this one. So this is the IP address. So now we are allowing, now it will go ahead and do this one. And another important point to understand is we will speak a couple of minutes on the cache aside pattern. So if I come into this, not the keyword, if I come back to the Redis cache over here, and this Redis cache, I can go to this console, and we are connecting to this Redis cache. Now if I do keys, asterisk, now you see there's all books. Now I do cat. Okay, sorry, get, it's not cat. See this? So now, next time when some other user tries to access this, you see it will be much faster than the previous one. And what is this cache aside pattern is? We will see that Azure cache aside. So the cache aside pattern is very, very important. So the thing is that when you are using this cache aside pattern, all the time we don't go and hit the database. So what we will do is first we'll come and look into the cache. If it is there in the cache, we will deserialize the content from the cache and give it to the user. So that's in memory. It will be a bit faster than this one. And another thing is, if at all there is no hit, so we'll go get it from the database, create a copy, and then give it. So that particular call, whatever it happens, it will be little bit delayed, but not very too much delayed, but little bit delayed. And another important thing is, in this scenario, if you see that we have this 6 or 7 records. So that 7 records has been stored inside the cache over here. Now, what if someone deletes a record or updates a record? So that means in this picture, the database has got one set of content. That's a true picture. And whatever is in the cache is a stale data, or it's not projecting the true picture, what is that it is stored in the database. So in this kind of scenario, when you add or modify or delete any of the data, you need to take the responsibility to invalidate the cache. So it is the development team's responsibility to go ahead and invalidate the cache. So if you come and see this, let me take, I want the first record. Okay, if I want to do a first record, I picked up the first record. And now if I do keys of asterisks. So see this, I have all books, all the books, and also the first book. What if someone goes and modifies this first record? So at that time, what I need to do is I need to invalidate two things. I need to invalidate all books as well as I need to invalidate the book one, isn't it? So because the book one content has been modified, so it doesn't make sense to have this particular book's information in the cache. You need to go and get it from the database and then drop a copy in the cache. That makes sense. And also, this is part of the all books. So you need to invalidate if at all the all books are available, we need to invalidate. The key piece when we use the cache aside pattern is you are gaining the benefit. I mean, the first hit, like previously in IIS servers, when the first hit it takes, it has to activate the pool and that library is this libraries, we'll say that the first hit will take a lot of time. So similarly here also, the first hit will take a lot of time. And on top of that, you will gain a lot of time in giving the information pretty quicker. The flip side is when you're choosing what kind of content you need to store it here is very, very important decision. Imagine a scenario where the record gets updated every 1 hour. For me, it is an overkill to store it in cache. Imagine a scenario in this books store, updating the title or version 2 of the book or changing the price of the book. It happens very rarely. So it makes sense to drop that. And anything like a gold price or something which changes once in 24 hours. So it's those kind of data which very rarely changes. It makes sense to have it in the database. And another final tip, what I would like to give here is, let's go back to the same bookstore. Here, in this configuration at this point of time, anyone who has got access to this web app will be able to get the details of my database, and not mine in the sense it's a team's database, and Azure Redis cache. So what we will do is we will do this final experiment. Takes 2 minutes, but this is very, very important. I will change this one. I will explain in a minute. There are a couple of other points we need to discuss while discussing the key vault. So I'll come back to this one. I will change this key vault. Now let me save this. And then we'll come back and discuss something on the key vault. These are very, very important points we're discussing.
Thank
So
you, Swamy.
here what happens in the key vault?
We are running out of
Yeah.
time. I'm sorry.
2 minutes. Will I get 2 minutes time?
Okay.
I'll wrap it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So see this here. If you see this key vault, so where the key vault is there, the access to that resource will be given only to managers or the DevOps team or through automation. You will not get it. So even if you come here, you can come, but you will not get access. That's the first point. And the second point here is it will have the purge protection. The purge protection is you can, if any of the guy who has got access to this one, they can select it and they can delete it. Even if they do that deletion, what you can do is you can come and click on this manage deleted secrets. So that means if you say that the purge protection is for 60 days or 90 days or 10 days, even after they delete it, it will stay there as a mandatory for those many days which you have specified. So one thing is, that's one of the scenario, couple of points on that. And the second important point is the same SQL Server database will be used by multiple people, multiple teams. So if each of these guys have it in their own configuration or in the configuration of the app settings, if you change any of the details, all these 10 applications should change it. So the other important advantage is keep it in key vault. If there is a change, you will update at one location and all the 10 or 15 applications, whoever are using it, they will work without any modifications. So you see this, and now that we changed it, So what is happening is now the connection string for the SQL Server or the connection string for the Azure keyword is coming from the keyword, and that is secret. So no one will be able to access that. That's one point. And second important point is, if at all there is something is changing, you don't need to go and change 10 to 15 applications. All you need to change it at one single location. Everybody works. It's a world peace.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
It was, yeah, we cover a lot, but thank you, Swamy, for coming again on the show and sharing your knowledge. I know you're hosting some learning rooms as well about Azure certification, so check that out on the learning community website. We are also having like Let's Learn events of this, like since last month, about Azure. So if you want to just have the basic knowledge of Azure, we're running in several languages. We have Portuguese and Spanish this week, so tune in live. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us. And next week, we have Florian Rappel coming to talk about micro front ends with Blazor. So see you all next week. Thank you.
Hey, Maria.
Wow.